So our next topic that we actually kind of all came up with over PlayStation. We were just sitting playing some bullshit, and then we thought of this. If you look in a lot of different gaming editorials and opinions and stuff online, a topic that keeps coming up a lot is open world games, and specifically oversaturation of the genre and of open world games. Just in the market in general. This is brought up a lot because of Metal Gear and Mad Max. Not only that those games came out on the same day, but that in different ways, both of those games are being accused of being held back by the open world genre. Especially, Metal Gear being accused of story elements just not really coming through as much as they could had they not been an open world game. And then Mad Max, I've just been hearing. I haven't played it. I was interested, but now I'm not because of the reviews. I've been hearing it's just another. It's just add that to the list of open world games. It's nothing to go out of your way to play. It's just, you know what I mean. It just is there, kind of just in the mass market of all of the open world games that have even just come out this year, let alone in the last couple of years. So I kind of wanted to get everybody's opinion on that. On whether or not you think open world games are necessarily being oversaturated, or if companies just aren't doing them right. Because I mean, trust me, I've played open world games that have been done right. I think in a lot of ways Metal Gear is a really, really good open world, and I'm personally really enjoying the open world in that game. But before Metal Gear, for me, I was playing Far Cry 4, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, I have fun. And that's how I am with most open world games. I have fun in them. It's just Far Cry 4 had so much unnecessary crap in it that I felt like didn't need to be it. It was just in there to kind of pad out the open world, because really the substantial stuff, like the stuff that affects the story or the stuff that has a progression to it, is the main story and a couple the Shangri-La side quest, a couple things like that. Everything else is just go dick around. And so there's it's the way you put it when I was talking about that, Diego, is there's everything and nothing at the same time. Yeah. But I wanted to get your opinion on that as a whole, because I had a little list, actually. Just in the last year and a half, we've had Shadow of Mordor, Far Cry 4, Assassin's Creed Unity, Dying Light, Batman Arkham Knight, you could almost say is an open world game. It's more of it's very small open world, but I mean it is an open world game. Metal Gear Solid, now we have Mad Max. I know I'm missing... Oh, The Witcher 3, one of the biggest open world games to come out.
Also, okay, ever. Are you just going to throw... I'm just curious, just for the sake of this conversation, are you just going to throw all sandbox games as well into the open world genre for now? I mean, I know we talked about the whole semantics behind what's the differentiation between them.
Yeah.
But, for this argument, can we just
I don't know.
Let's just collect them. I think because
I guess
they play very similarly.
Because you just mentioned Arkham Knight, but that's technically a sandbox, right?
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest with you, Kojima calls Metal Gear Solid 5 a sandbox, and that is not. That's an open world game. So I don't know what to group those into. I mean, a sandbox game I know for sure would be Dishonored and games like that. That aren't an open world. They're an open
environment. It's an open environment.
Open environment.
Well, even then, I'd say Metal Gear really isn't an open world then, because open world, at least so far from what I played, it's really kind of empty.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's what Kojima...
And the thing that kind of... This also, again, it comes down to such subtleties, because it's how populated versus empty does it need to be to really get it to the point of it being considered open world versus sandbox? Is it just a bad open world game that is empty, or is
that's exactly what
sandbox, or you know what I'm saying? It's so where do we draw the line?
Well, and exactly, and I think that's the conversation that we have to have with this topic: is what constitutes an open world game, and is it this oversaturation of open world, sandbox, freedom, whatever it is you want to call it? Is it that saturation that's causing this confusion and kind of just mishmashing them all together? Because, I can tell you right now, I have played open world, sandbox, I'm just going to call it open world for the sake of this topic, games that I felt would have been better had they not been open world. The best ones I can think of is, honestly, an Infamous Second Son. I thought, personally, although, yes, the other games were open world, the game that did nothing with the open world or the sandbox, if you want to call it that. And then going off of what you said, Diego, Metal Gear does have a lot of empty areas in it, and it's because Kojima, like the way he worded it was, this isn't open world, this is open infiltration. So it's just a bunch of bases.
I really feel like
separated. So it's like, but that's what I'm trying to say is, I want to get you guys' opinion. Is it oversaturated, or what's the deal with this?
The distinction between the two isn't so important, I feel like. So let's just kind of
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying let's just skip the whole distinction point and move on to whether or not we find. I think move on to whether or not we think any open world game, if it would fare better if we thought about it as, if it had been not an open world game.
Okay. So actually, I have a thing that I want to say about it. It is like, in terms of Infamous, how I kind of felt it was I think Eddie actually said this, was the open world, quote unquote, it basically feels like one big lobby for the story missions.
Yeah.
And there's two schools of thought on that, which is basically like that's unnecessary, but then again it's like, would it actually be better? Because if you think about it, like I know actually I did spend a lot of time just kind of running around and having fun in the map, and so I'm wondering, like, would I trade that for maybe a tighter story? I don't know, because I had a lot of fun there. So it's kind of a hard question to answer, because you have to kind of ask yourself, there's almost a division between, am I having fun or am I not? Because a good example of that is recent, I say, Assassin's Creed games, I think. Because, goddamn, dude, I can't tell you how much time I wasted collecting feathers in Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
And I was not having fun. But that is, that's a series that's always been open world. So, it's like, but I'm going to use the term Ubisofting, because that's kind of what happened.
Like, that is what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, like, that's what happened in Far Cry 4, to a lesser extent, I will admit. But there's kind of a strange narrative going on in the business, I feel like, where it's like, there's been more like contention over the $60 price point lately, and I'm not really sure why this has happened, but I feel like there are a lot of companies who think to themselves, if we're going to charge $60 for this game, we need to make sure that it's worth that much money to people. So we need to put a lot of stuff in it, and that doesn't always mean we need to put a lot of good stuff in it. Assassin's Creed is a good example, and the funny thing is it's like, I don't remember this conversation ever being on 7th Gen, where we were asking, am I willing to pay $60 for this game? Because, most games, even if they're a linear story game, they're going to net you 10 to 15 hours, which, like, if you compare that to the price of a DVD, like, it's still worth it. So,
well, it's like, but two things that I guess I would counter that with is, I think that this has become a discussion because of the rise of services like Steam, where you're getting big games discounted really quickly. And, it's a lot easier. Like right now, I was saying I can get Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light for $15, the Reduxes, because games are just becoming cheaper faster. I feel like they have been, at least. And also, the thing with, I agree with what you said about, I think developers are trying to put a little bit more bang for your buck. So if it doesn't have the multiplayer element, they're putting an open world element, or in games like Far Cry, you have both, and the map editor and stuff. Because you have games that release like the Order 1886, which was a 7.5-hour game. Apparently, if you were stretching it, it was 8 hours. And that was it. That was you know what I mean? And then people were like, "Oh, what the hell? Why did I pay $60 for this game?" Now, I can't make a judgment because I didn't play it, but
here's the thing about that one, which is like, I will admit that actually that runs a lot on the short side. But if it was a couple hours longer, and mind you, if it was actually good, I don't think that would be a concern, because if you think back to, I'm going to go back all the way to BioShock 1 as an example. That was one of the best examples I can think of an unabashedly linear game. It was 12 hours every time you play it. There's basically no replay value, but it was amazing. And that's how Irrational Games, I think, operated when they made it, because this wasn't a concern, mind you, but I think personally for me, I would rather have less content and have it really, really good than have a lot that sucks. Well, and that's a good point. Quick though.
Oh, sorry, go E.
This is just interesting. I was just thinking about it. I really don't remember BioShock 1 very well. It's been forever, but that's kind of a game. Isn't that kind of a game where it's linear, but it doesn't really have like level dividers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Kind of, you
technically
can
true.
put this task. And
So it just keeps going and going, and it's not like Call of Duty where you have like missions you replay or anything like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it goes.
Yeah.
I guess I'm
Also, like, could you potentially could you go back and revisit locations in that game?
Yeah, you could.
So
yeah, you could.
that's almost weird. It's almost like not an open world game, but like
It's almost like we've seen this before. Maybe sometime 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Doom. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna bring up a point with that. I'm gonna use a term for this. Let's just call those kind of games open map games because it's not nearly the same thing. But I know what you're saying.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I think what comes up with games like Bioshock or the last game I can think of that was strictly linear that I really enjoyed the hell out of for me was The Last of Us. The Last of Us wasn't linear like, you know, I'm going through a freaking corridor, but it had succinct levels and chapters. And granted, that game had a multiplayer mode. I played like an hour maybe.
It's actually really good.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't really play that much because
Yeah.
I got Destiny very soon after I got the remaster of that game. But anyways, I played that 12 to 15 hour story, and
Yeah.
I didn't regret any even cent that I paid for that game.
Yeah.
And I bought it full price because that did it so well. And I think the thing that comes up with games like The Order 1886 is that, from what I've heard, again, I didn't play it, was like this. Not only are you getting a short story, but it's not even that good. Like,
Right.
it's okay. But I guess, and Diego, I wanted to get your insight on this too, because I know like you and I have kind of talked about this before, is it a case of oversaturation? Is it a case of like what I was talking about a few years ago with like we had so many shooter games, you know? Is it a case of developers kind of just jumping on to the latest trend? And are we gonna run this genre into the ground like we did honestly with the shooter? Is this what's gonna happen with open world games, or what is it? Because you have games like like The Witcher 3 or like Fallout 4, franchises that have always been open world and always done it very, very well. But now they're getting mixed in with games like Mad Max or Metal Gear Solid 5 going open world. This is a series that usually hasn't. What kind of effect do you think this has on the industry as a whole?
I'd argue that it's already having an effect because The Witcher wasn't really a franchise that was technically open world either. It was a little bit more contained.
Witcher 2 was it was more like open environment sort of like, but it was like separate areas, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like
they call that
nodes.
like a node system. Like
Yeah.
I think
but you couldn't actually backtrack, so it was still a consistent storyline. So you'd go to a new area, and it'd be a pretty big area. It wouldn't be like, you know, an enormous area, but it would be big enough that you could definitely consistently explore and do multiple missions in that area. But then when you'd move on to a new area, you couldn't go backwards because it was a progressing story. So yeah.
What I'm saying is, it's already been a problem because franchise has been shifted towards it. I mean, even Hitman Absolution, the last game that came out, that game was trying to shift towards bigger environments, but it kind of failed.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's more a problem of devs being a little bit more giddy. Like suddenly, we have some stronger, quote unquote, hardware. Let's do something with it. And what they're doing with it, or what they think they can do with it, is we've got this new hardware. What should we do with it? Open world, because why not?
So,
either that or make our game pretty.
So you think that it might be more a sense of more resources rather than like industry trends?
I think it's more, it's a trend for sure, but I think it's more attributed to the fact that suddenly, we've got this new hardware, or we've got these new systems or whatever.
But do you think that this sort of trend will kind of run? Well, do you think people will get sick of open world games, or do you think this is going to run that genre out? Like I said, what happened with shooters, because what we see is, or in 6th Gen, that happened a lot with action adventure games, right? Like you had, your games like Ratchet and Clank or Jak and Daxter, things like that worked really well. Then everybody jumped on the bandwagon. You had all those tie-in games that did the exact same thing, and all just little games that nobody really remembers. And like the two things I've heard that I also did, like Diego, we both talked about this, is that I've been hearing two things can happen with an open world game now. That's that you have a game like the infamous Second Son, or in a different way like Far Cry 4 or Assassin's Creed, things like that, where Dying Light, even to be honest with you, where there's not a whole lot to do really. Like you run around and fuck around with the world for a couple hours, like, and then after that, it's like, well, what am I going to do to progress this game other than do the main story?
Right.
And then, but then you have games like The Witcher 3, which I know, Ethan, you disagree with this, but I've just heard from other people that there's just too much to do. Like, people are getting overwhelmed with that game because they start the game and they're thrown with, like, 18 side quests and main missions, but then you also got, like, this other story that's not the main mission, but it's also very substantial, and you know what I mean? And I'm wondering if people are going to start getting a little sick of it. And what kind of effect that's going to have on games like Fallout 4 that have always been open world, at least, Fallout 3, New Vegas, or you have, like, Oblivion, things like that. What kind of effect is that going to have on those games in terms of sales or public recognition? What do you think the forecast is for the industry in the future? Because personally, just to say my piece, I think that we are starting to get a bit fatigued. I think Mad Max, if that game had come out a couple years ago, a lot of people would dig it. They're not even looking at the fact that it came out the same day as Metal Gear, which was super stupid of them. But before games, like, that's Avalanche Studios, the same company that did Just Cause 2, and that this is actually the exact same dev team, the European ones. Games like Just Cause 2 that came out, that was a ton of shit to do, and a super open world, Far Cry 3. When those games came out, we didn't have all kinds of those, so those were really, people really got into that. They were like, wow, there's so much to do, it's complete sense of freedom. But now, I mean, you go into a Best Buy or GameStop, and that's half the games on the shelf right now on the new releases aisle. So
I think that it would be you would be wrong if you were to try to tell me that the industry doesn't go through trends, because you just clearly outlined the good example. The action adventure of the PS2, the shooters of 7th gen, and I can see open world as being kind of the poster boy of 8th gen, if I'm being honest. And like you said, it's already kind of been true. But I think open world is a very different kind of beast in the sense that it's almost like, as weird as it sounds, it's almost going to go through like Darwinian selection, really, because you only have so much time. And if every single game is trying to copy Fallout or Elder Scrolls or Witcher, then what's naturally going to happen is everybody is going to play way more the ones that are established and be really good, that they know that are really good. And so what you asked me about, if it's going to affect the really good ones, no. If anything, I think it's going to strengthen their sales, because people are going to be like, look, I don't have time to play Mad Max if Fallout 4 is coming out, or if Metal Gear is coming out, because, people are busy, right? Like, but with shooters, it was never really like that. Granted, people spend a lot of time on shooters, but it's not the same,
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was thinking, or I was gonna tell you too.
Yeah.
Was I get what you're saying in that sense of, like, Darwinian selection, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's the point I've heard brought up about this whole open world thing, is that this is different than shooters or action adventures, because they're not 15, 20-hour games. These are, if you're really doing everything, these are 80 to 100-hour games. And, like, especially in a holiday season where you have, like, 5 of those coming out, you can't go, oh, I'm gonna get Mad Max and Metal Gear and Just Cause 3 and Fallout 4 and enjoy all of those, because you're not. You can down the road, but you're not gonna enjoy all of those because you can't. How the hell are you gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel strained enjoying Metal Gear because I know The Taken King's coming, and then Halo 5's coming in 4 weeks,
So there's kind of a good and bad side to that, really, which is, the good thing is that, you're going to be able to pick which games you want to spend your money on, and that sends a message to devs. Maybe they'll notice that, X game didn't work, and they'll try to do it better, so that we might get more better open world games, or we might get less, which would kind of solve the same problem. But that does pose a sort of issue, which is we're going to get too much solidification of, like, the core open world franchises, I think. Because, if you think about it, what are, like, the open world franchises? There's Fallout, there's Elder Scrolls, there's Witcher. I could think of a few more.
Far Cry.
Why is it that we don't see that many new IP open world games? We saw Mad Max this year, and I think that, granted it wasn't amazing, but if it had been a lot better, I still think that it would have got swamped by Metal Gear, obviously, and Fallout this year. So it almost makes me feel like we're not going to see as much creativity in the open world genre. So it's kind of, that kind of happens with all games, really, but I don't know. It kind of worries me a little bit, to be honest with you, because I'm all for having slightly less open world games, but if I sacrifice my lack of time for my lack of creativity, then am I really gaining anything? I don't know which I prefer.
Yeah, totally.
Ethan,
Diego,
what do you think about it?
Oh yeah, Ethan.
Either
Ethan and Diego, whoever wants to go. I've been talking too much.
big surprise.
So what's your actual question here? Just like, what do I think about?
Yeah, well, it's like
all of this.
It's like, what do you think of this? How does this affect not only the industry going forward, but other games caught in the slew of this this open world?
I feel like, well, okay. First of all, I feel like, it's not really. I mean, I don't think it's exclusive to open world games with the whole lack of like new IPs. Like, I feel like it's just daunting for anyone to want to make a new IP in general. I mean, with like there's shooters dominating the market that are extremely long series games. Call of Duty, etc. And so I feel like it's extremely just daunting to make any sort of new IP at all. That's so regardless, that's tough to do. I guess in regards to just like open world games, then I guess it's not going to be. I don't think much different. I feel like there still will be studios attempting to make I don't know. I guess I can't really foresee a really clear, vision of what I think might happen. I feel like it's going to be fairly consistent. I mean, Mad Max, even though maybe it wasn't the most well received, Shadow of Mordor, I mean, was good. I mean, with Mad Max, maybe it wasn't like critically acclaimed or anything, but those were still like, risks, definitely. I think from the studios, and I think, that's still commendable, and I think that can definitely, it can pay off. Obviously, in the case of Shadow of Mordor, I think. That did pretty well, right?
They also
rise of last year.
They released it at a really good time. To be fair, there was nothing really time consuming out at that time. But
I feel like then that it serves as proof that studios can still successfully make original games, even though it's based in like the Lord of the Rings universe or whatever. It's still an original Lord of the Rings game or whatever.
Right.
So I think that's still proof that you can make a very original game and still completely succeed. I think it boils down to just your craft and your skill the studio has really with making something super cohesive. So that's, I guess, how I feel about that. I don't know if Diego wants to run with that or.
No, sorry, I'm in the middle of something right now.
He's texting your dad.
Yeah.
I mean, do I think it's a trend that'll die out anytime soon? Definitely not, because for every open world game we don't like,
girl.
Yeah, there's somebody out there that does like it, and as long as people are eating it up, then I don't see why devs are going to stop doing it all of a sudden, because that's what's selling. Are we getting fatigued? I personally am, because like you said, we just don't have time for this. It's kind of what's been keeping me from playing Metal Gear is, just...
we got shit to do, man. We can't just...
Yeah, honestly, like, I get back and I'm like, you know what? I could play a game of Dota, get my satisfaction done with video games for the day, or I could play 5 hours of Metal Gear.
And not really have put a
because Lord knows when you pick up that controller for Metal Gear, you ain't setting that shit down for a while.
No, really though.
No, but like seriously,
dude, I would call in sick for work to play freaking shit sometimes.
And it's like I kind of wanted to check out Mad Max, but at the same time, it's like I really want to play Metal Gear, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then truth be told, by the time you're done. Really experiencing Metal Gear,
something else is going to be out.
Fallout is going to be right around the corner, or Battlefront, and So I mean, I guess that's kind of what I would say, or what we'd all say is like it's. I like. What's that?
It's a problem of the market will dictate where this trend goes.
Yeah,
if people get tired of. if people get tired of open world games, then I guess the strongest ones will stay, like you guys said, the established franchises. But even then, I think even they're vulnerable because really, if they can't rely on their pedigree alone, if
No, I mean, if they release a garbage product, then it's a garbage product.
Yeah, if we're saying, oh, Fallout 4, if you play the game and it turns out to be, pretty bad or like a shitty open world, and people are going to take note of that.
Yeah, well, and I mean, also something that just comes to mind is even beside the quality of that game, Fallout or anything that's like that could still be really good. The thing that I think, and I don't necessarily think we're at this point yet, like I guarantee you right now, Fallout 4 is going to be one of the best sellers of this year. Like it's going to sell so many freaking copies. I just, that's a really established franchise and a really anticipated game. But down the road, when you have more open world games that are coming out, this goes with any sort of genre. This happened with shooters. This happened with Halo 4. When you have games that come out that are from respected franchises or studios and that are still really good, you have people who are like, well, I just bought Mad Max 2 weeks ago, man. How am I going to play Fallout? I'll wait on that a little bit. Or, I'm kind of over this open world thing. I know this game's going to be good, but Battlefront's right on the corner. That's coming out the week after, and I've really been excited for that game. Or next year, is it going to be, well, I mean, other than Assassin's Creed, I think people are sick of Assassin's Creed in general. But like, say it's Far Cry 5 or the next Far Cry.
There's an invisible wall here.
Hey, that's a good point though. Also, really quick, just to not to interrupt your train of thought,
go for it.
I think Assassin's Creed is the perfect example of something where a studio who can be highly regarded can release something that's really half-baked, and then everyone really notices and is like, "Holy shit, this is not good!" Like, and then it actually like hurts them.
Well, and they speak with their wallets. Like Assassin's Creed Unity was far and away the most underselling Assassin's Creed game, apparently, and that wasn't even just because of the bugs.
I think we've already seen how worn out we are with open worlds. Let's not forget Watch Dogs.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's a good example. A
lot of its selling point was actually the open world. He's like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, and when the game actually came out, it turned out that it was just a gimmick. People were just like, oh, well, you can do this, but there's no reason to, or it's just an empty open world. Well,
and or it's like it looked like, oh my God, I'm gonna be able to do whatever the hell I want with this cell phone. I can like crash jets into I'm not gonna say buildings.
But, yeah, I was gonna say don't.
Yeah.
But that's what it looked like. And then you play the game, and it's like, oh, I can toggle the stoplight, or I can turn off the security camera over and over and over again. And I mean, I think that's to some game like Metal Gear. I think that's to its benefit. Is Metal Gear is completely free. I don't know if you've noticed that yet, but like, it's not like pick one of 5 ways to go about this. It's like do whatever the hell.
I feel like it's very tight. You know what I'm saying? Like, like a lot of things in Watch Dogs like sounded good on paper, and like you're like, wow, I can do this, and then you do it, and it's like, wow, that was kind of whack actually. Wow, I can be on Wilson driving a car and stop a stoplight. But like, it's like cool. It sounds cool to do, but then in the game, it's kind of just really doesn't come together. And then I feel like Metal Gear, everything's so tight about the gameplay wise that it's just it's great.
Yeah.
Honestly, like no matter what happens, like they're gonna listen to where you spend your money. At the end of the day, like really, really, more than anything, that's what they care about. Devs in general, I mean. So like, if there's more open world games and people don't buy them, there'll be less. If there aren't that many and people are buying the ones that are there, they're gonna make more. It's fluctuations. This happens with everything. So I mean, bottom line really is, vote with your wallets, people. Like, come on, buy what's good, don't buy what sucks, and then they're gonna pretty much bow down to you and do what you want.
But at the end of the day, you don't know what's good or what's bad for you unless you try it out. And I think that's where the problem lies, is, you just don't have the time to sink 80 hours into a game, and it's fun to say, you know what, I really did like that, and I'm glad I spent my $60 on it, because, there's also other 100-hour games, and, you just don't got the time for that.
Exactly. By the way, everyone, don't sell your games to GameStop. eBay is the best way. I've found that.
Yeah, I mean, don't support freaking GameStop, man. I saw. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Topic.
But I think we exhausted that, and
D-Dog, my boy.
Yeah. Have you gotten quiet?
No, not yet.
Dude.
Can't wait.
No, actually, she's annoying, and I use D-Dog. She's
I'm gonna go to the bathroom
unreliable.
really quick.
No, well, I think we're gonna wrap that up, anyways, guys.
You just gotta bond with her, dude.
I do have full bond with her, if you know what I'm saying.
Hey.
But I mean, especially since Ethan's now peeing. I'd say that's about it for our first podcast. Thanks to anybody who watched. Again, if you're seeing this on the YouTube format, you want to check out our subsequent podcasts while you're driving and you want to hear our beautiful voices, check out our SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/player2gaming. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. People are SoundCloud. And, of course, subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/player2gaming. I think that's a wrap, guys. I'm Eddie.
I'm Jordan.
Yeah.
Hey.
Ethan's gone.
Diego is a blue guy.
And Diego's focused on petting D-Dog.
No, I'm at mother base right now. Helicopter's really loud, though.
Oh, yeah. Dude, oh my god, I know it drowns out everything. Alright, Ethan, you want to say bye? We're ending it.
Okay, yeah. Good talk. I think we covered a lot of
Good talk.
important,
Life lessons.
Yeah.
Alright, guys.
Live and learn.
Things have been good. All right.
Until next time, we'll catch you guys later.
See ya.